All right, hello, 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 hello. Sound check, sound check. We are live. We don't seem to have any viewers currently, but maybe that changes in a bit. We're gonna start regardless. I'm gonna put up the VOD anyway afterwards. And I know I actually get a lot more views on these things as VODs rather than as actual streams. So, oh, Lucas is in the chat. Hey, Lucas. Nice to have you with us again. Interestingly, my concurrent viewer number says 0, but I guess that's just YouTube being weird. Anyway, welcome everyone. If we have any other people in the stream. This is coming in a little bit hot today. I haven't really had time to prepare all that much. So maybe a bit more chaotic than usual. Even more than usual. But I have actually done quite a lot of work since last time. Even if it is not perhaps all that obvious to you. But let's see. I had some plans to actually kind of move on from these UI things onto other things, but my work that I was doing just this morning, I actually managed to regress a little bit and introduce a bug with some of the changes that I did. So we're gonna have to start by fixing that, and then we can move on to slightly different things. Still sort of UI and interaction related, because that is kind of what the whole project hinges on at the moment. Like, I need to get this interaction system to be robust enough so that I can actually start producing gameplay. And yeah, the first thing that you will see different from last time is that we now have this nicer interaction prompt here, which actually reacts to, like, if I switch to gamepad, you can actually see that it reacts sort of like if I just press on my keyboard and my gamepad, actually switches the prompts dynamically, which is pretty cool. It should actually also probably react to language changes. I'll put this to French. I don't have anything because I don't have that string in French. And I think the Swedish one had, yeah. It kind of weirdly cuts off the words. So there's a bug there in my parsing. But yeah, the idea here is that it should be basically as dynamic as we need in the final game. We also have the vehicle switching prompt there, which is now put on a different button than the interaction area prompt. And the bug that I had, if I can reproduce it here, let's see. If I put a vehicle here inside this area, and then I drive close to it, should be able to get both the prompts, and you do. So X to interact and Y to switch vehicle. And that's fine. If we press X here now, then we interact with the area, it just goes away, and it says player 1 on the road down there. Let's reset the area like this. But if I switch to the other vehicle, you can see that that prompt now goes away until we actually leave this area and then go back. So there's something there to fix still. But pretty small. I'm hoping we can fix that relatively soon. So something that's pretty cool actually, or I think is pretty cool actually, is these buttons here. They're completely dynamically sort of placed here in this text, and based on what you have currently actually bound as the button. So we have like press E to interact, for example. And if we go to input and we search for key underscore E, you can see that this is the interact primary. If we put this to something different, something like, I don't know, M, and then we rebuild this thing. Yeah, they should come from some sort of remapping menu, of course, but they're just hard-coded for now because I don't have that menu. So so now if we drive into it, it should say M. Let's see if that actually works. Yeah, press M to interact. Now if I press E, nothing happens. If I press M, then it interacts with the area. So that's cool. That it should be sort of completely dynamic. This is the sort of stuff that doesn't really feel super important perhaps at this point, but it's kind of nasty to have to do then at a later point. So I spent some time figuring this stuff out now. If we go to the data, go to game, and we go to localization is actually the thing that I want here. So an Excel sheet, very, very fancy, I know. Basically, we do it like this. I have this custom syntax where you put like two squiggly brackets and then you put the vehicle interact primary. That's like the name of the input. And since it's quite easy to actually go from a string representation to an enum in Zig, I can just parse that string and figure out something to use there. And yeah, so we have these like Scandinavian characters like this A with a little bit of small sort of, what is that called? Is that like an umlaut or something? That seems to break my parser currently, so I guess we'll have to actually look at that. But that's not super important right now. So what was the bug that we were supposed to look at? If we fly here, we spawn an object there. This is the sort of thing that I should probably just make like a quick sort of debug hack for myself, so that I could reproduce this situation more easily. But yes, now we have two vehicles. Now if I press F, yeah, that second vehicle doesn't actually get that interaction prompt, which is, it's kind of surprising that when you go back to the previous one, it reappears again. That's strange, actually. So why is that? See if we can figure that out. I'm sure it's in the interaction manager somewhere. So when we set the active avatar, if the previous avatar was inside an area, we exit, right? And if the new avatar is inside an area, we enter, right? So we should get here basically. Avatar object entered area. Yeah. Let's put a breakpoint there and see if we actually get it. We do actually get it. I think I might have accidentally activated that area, so let's make it reappear. Reset road. Right. I probably need to exit this thing and re-enter it to reproduce the bug. So F, right? So it's just, yeah, like I can actually activate or interact with the area. It's just that the prompt is not visible. Okay, that narrows it down a little bit. Let's reset the thing again. Right, so we would have come here. If the area is active, we show the interaction prompt. Well, that's the next thing. Yeah, here you can actually see the localization key. Like if we have the Excel here, we have like text UI generic interaction prompt. We'll probably want to have something like very, very specific in some of these areas, like press E to activate elevator or whatever. And yeah, if you search for this, you can see that we get this auto-generated Zig file, so that you get nice auto completion and everything if your text doesn't actually match what is in the Excel sheet currently. And that is the text that we want to show. Let me do show interaction prompt. And what is going on? Right, so we're just in the RPC proxy. That's not super interesting. Let's actually search for this show interaction prompt. Go here. So that's another one. Here's the RPC. Right, and if we are on the client and the host ID is the host ID for the interaction prompt. Yeah, this really should, in my opinion, handle it. So let's see if we actually get this. And we should get it actually twice, in my opinion. We should get it once with the interaction type set to probably like 0. Yeah, that's the interaction area. And then the switch vehicle. And we do actually get the switch vehicle one. So that works. But we don't get the interaction one. Let's put in a print there to see what's happening. So show interaction prompt. This is like the RPC on the client, actually. So we can do basis.printf. Show interaction prompt on client. Type would then just be, well, we can print it as the number. So that's underscore interaction type. Yeah, you can't currently at least send enums directly to the RPC layer. It is just interested in the raw data. So it's an U32, and then you just cast it from that back to the int. I could probably make that happen on the RPC layer somehow automatically, but yeah, and I do wonder if this actually happens on something else, on something other than the client, but we do have an on-client check here, so maybe we can actually move that there. Like here we are actually on the server, and we're calling an RPC proxy show interaction prompt, so it's like essentially calling it on the other side, which would be the client. Same thing here. And that's fine. Let's try that. See what happens. All right, we're up to 6, or we were. We were up to 6 concurrent viewers. I don't know how actually reliable that concurrent viewer number in YouTube is. Evidently, it wasn't very reliable earlier. But let's see if we can get to 10 this time. I think my record currently, I mean, evidently I haven't been streaming very long on this channel. It's been mostly like a VOD channel, but I think my current record is like 8 concurrent viewers. So let's see if we can get to 10 today. That would be cool. Okay, so now we can see these things coming in. We should see them essentially appear at the same time as these prompts appear. So now we got 0. Yes, that's interaction 1. And when we get closer to this guy, we should get the type 1, which is exactly what we do get. Okay, so now if I press F, We do actually get them both. Yeah. We do get them both, actually. It's 0 and 1, 0 and 1. So that's good. Okay, so then I question why is my prompt not appearing? That's weird. Why is my prompt not appearing? I can probably take... Whoa! What am I doing? Take that away. Yeah, so let's search for that, and we can see where it would be in the in-game UI view model. It's right here. Let's do the same thing. Actually, it is probably coming here. I bet the bug is somewhere here in the interaction prompt list. So let's put the input or output rather here instead. So show type. Yeah, now we have the type as the actual enum. I think we should be able to print that. I think Zig should be intelligent enough to like show that as a type or as a string. Oh, access denied because the game is running. Yes, indeed. Okay. So, yes, show type, and then we get gameplay types, interaction type switch vehicle. We should get more of those if we... Let's move this a little off to the side here. We should get more of these switch vehicles. Yeah. And then let's plonk that vehicle into the area. We get interaction area and switch vehicle. Right, so let's switch the vehicle now. And again, we get both of them. But again, it's not actually visible. Intriguing. So we're getting closer to the actual place where we are like actually rendering this thing now. So here we have a global list of these per interaction type datas. There's something called an text inline collection. A text inline collection is basically like a collection of things that make up of text. So this or actually both of these have 3 objects. They have this first one, which is the word press, and it has this icon, and then it has the second one, which is the words to interact. So it's like strings or images, essentially. And then it has the localization key. This is basically this thing here, but it is in an enum form. Then there's the actual like raw text, because we need to figure that out based on the current language, and then we have whether or not it's visible or not. And here in the render function, we just iterate over those guys and see what is what. Here we actually have some handy output from before. Let's uncomment those 2 and see what we get. See what we get. Okay, so this now obviously spams the thing. Index 0 is false. We're not in any interaction area, but index 1 is visible true. That would be the vehicle. Now we drive away. They're both false. That's fine as well. Put down the vehicle there a few more times, and I'm going to actually script this to make this easier to reproduce. Okay, now they're both true. Let's switch vehicle, and now it's false. That's true, that's false. So what makes it actually false then? I wonder if this is the sort of like the same thing that we had in the last stream where we needed to actually ref count these things, right? That could be. So rather than having like a visible bool here, let's add something that we call visible ref count. We can make this a signed integer just to be sure, so that we don't get any overflows or underflows. So this would be g per type datas I minus equals 1. Same thing here basically. And then yeah, that puts it to 0. Hide all. Yeah. And this hide all, I'm a little nervous about the hide all. Man, that kind of feels like that might actually be the culprit here. Let's see. We're gonna do the same thing for now, and then here we'll put it, bump it up. Can you zoom to the code? You mean you want the font as a larger font? I can make it a little larger. I'm not gonna make it very large, unfortunately. I understand the frustration if you can't see it, but yeah, I've had this request a few times, especially with my VODs. Basically, these are just like screen recordings of me working, so I'm not gonna make it super large, but make it a little larger. Hopefully that will make it easier to see. Yeah, these things are not perhaps the most easy to follow on like a phone or something. Right, no field visible. Yes, that is true. We would need to print the ref count now. So visible ref count. Yeah, and then of course the check needs to be updated. So if visible ref count is larger than 0, then we render it. Yeah, I wonder like about this hide all. This might actually be kind of a problem. Hide vehicle HUD. I bet this is actually what happens. Where do we call hide vehicle HUD? Call it when the game ended. Well, it hasn't ended, but we de-init the vehicle HUD. Well, this is ref counted already, so maybe it's not actually that. We'll see. We'll see. All right, so yeah, we're already at -1, so that was a pretty good hunch. So the interaction area is already at -1. That's interesting. So obviously, if let's have a look here. We only have so many places where we actually decrement this thing. So decrement it in. All right, that's probably the reason, right? Isn't it? This shouldn't be -1. This should just be 0. Yeah, that might have been it. Yeah. Yeah, and so if in all the places where we actually lower it, you only want to lower it if it is actually above it, right? Because there's almost always going to be one of these types that have it set to 0. The boolean is not a problem, we can just set it to false and that's it. But we never want to actually make it go below 0, yeah. Hide, yeah, this kind of, I guess I'm sort of assuming here that it is actually visible. Let's just make sure that we don't go below. Hide all, yeah, same thing there actually. Just want to make this check in all the places. All right. Maybe I can make this a little larger still for you guys. Now that I'm just working with one editor here. Quite often I have multiple of them like this, and then it just becomes too small. But yeah, currently I can perhaps have it at this size. Hopefully this makes it easier to follow. That's sort of the thing. If you want everyone to be able to see what you're doing, you need yourself like a 4K or 8K monitor, and I certainly don't have that. So, okay, index 0 is 0, index 1 is 1. That's correct. We have the switch vehicle thing here. Now it should go down to 0, which it does. That's nice. If we come close to this, it should go back up to 1. Same thing here. It also checks the speed. So if you go fast enough, it goes to 0. Something that actually it doesn't do currently with the areas. You can just drive through one of these at like 200 kilometers per hour and you can still interact with them. That's probably not something we want to allow. Okay, let's see. All right, and we're still... Oh, but here we can see... Yeah, we're going up... We're bumping up that visible count here for the vehicle switching. That's interesting. But the other one goes between 0 and 1. Peculiar. So the thing is probably that when one of these checks fails, so we don't actually lower it, and then we just increase it. Yeah. I don't actually really like this ref counting here. I don't think it should be necessary. Let's undo everything we had so far. And instead what we're gonna do is I'm gonna print the hidings and the showings of things. We don't have that many of them here. We have show, we have hide, and we have hide all. So let's just print this stuff. Actually, we don't need that. We can just do basis print hide all. Then we do hide index, and then we do show index. Something like that. Access denied. Again, yeah, game's running. Shut it down. So we're probably just hiding and showing in the wrong order, and then that makes it trip up on the thing. Alright, show index 1. It's fine. Hide index 1. show index 0, show index 1. Okay. So now when I press, we have two lines here. What do we get? We get hide, show, hide all, and show. Okay, so that's why we only see one of them. It's perhaps better to, rather than showing the actual indices here, we get the interaction type, right? So show type, hide type, and hide all. And let's just make life a little easier for ourselves here, and put in like a helper script. See how we do that. Oh, that was probably the wrong level. Yeah, that's the wrong level. Let's open the correct one. Right. So there's the interaction area. Let's create a new layer here. Call this hide bug. We need to auto load the hide bug layer, and let's put in a car. Well, what is it called? It's called something like vehicle, test vehicle. Put in another vehicle there, like so. And then what should we do? So that vehicle should probably stay there, but we can create a script that just moves it forward. Script. Oh, hide bug. Hide bug. Script. And then we'll create a waypoint. Let's put the waypoint like, let's put it outside of the area so that we can sort of reproduce the whole sort of flow of the bug. Yes, it will point in that direction. That's fine. Then we take script 1, and when script 1 is created, we will do it self. No, what do we call it? Yeah, self is what we call it. Teleport game object. And it takes the object and transforms. So this would be level objects. What is that thing actually called? It's in base, and it's test vehicle 1. Okay. So base. Test vehicle 1, and we want to teleport it to hide bug level objects, hide bug waypoint 1. Like that. Export the thing, see if it actually works. It might actually happen too fast, right? Yeah, it might happen too fast. Let's put in. Let's put in. Oh, what is happening here? Did the game crash? No, it just was slow to stop. We can put in a method here, or a function that we call hide bug, and then we move that there instead. So now we can move here a bit faster. We can actually even server run dev script hide bug like that. Now we can reproduce it through the history of the command prompt. Okay. So now we need to keep count of how many of those we had actually here. Yeah, it would be nice to get some sort of debug output here. Can I actually print something from the print debug info, but it goes to the window of the game. Oh well. That's not nice, but let's try to make do. Okay, so switch vehicle. So we get interaction area, hide. Then we get interaction area, show. Then we get hide all. So this hide all is, of course, that is sort of the thing that hides that. And then we get switch vehicle. Oh, and OBS Studio is doing something. Hopefully you all are with me. Questions. Hi, is the render still in web GPU? We have a web GPU backend. Yes. Currently this is D3D11, but the web GPU backend does work. Let's see if we go here and we add launch blah 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 blah. Launch release. Yeah, I think release is what I'm launching. I'm actually building a debug version of the game. Game DLL. I think we need to call the FX API web GPU. And that needs to have a comma. And we can see if it works. Clearly it does not work. Right access violation. Oh, right. I don't have the DLL here in the... Yes. I don't have the DLL here on this machine. Maybe we can make that happen, actually. I'm in kind of deep waters now. Yeah, I don't build that by default. Yeah, that's a bit... That's quite a bit of a thing to actually do, because I would need to download the latest Dawn release. Yeah, I have it on my other machine. It does work. I'll try to show it here on one of these streams. It's not actually as fully featured as the D3D11 one though, which is why I'm defaulting to that. They're still missing some things like hardware clip planes in web GPU. I've been involved with the standard people a little bit with that, and it looks like it is moving forward, but it's still not there. So there are some effects that actually bug out the web GPU backend, just because web GPU doesn't support hardware clip planes. But yes, it does work. C++ as a scripting language. No, this is not C++. This is Angel script. Yeah, so you have some weird things here. Like, can I make this larger? Yes. I have some things like ampersand in, which is not actually C++. It's a little C++ like, but it's not C++. Okay. Yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought, but I think what I was thinking here was that I want to see the hide all call stack. So I'm going to go here basically. And then do F. Oh, we're running from the editor now. Yeah, that's fine. Let's just export this thing, and then we can run it from the debugger. Sure, we can save. And we can export as well. That should be good. And now we can run it from here. Alright, and now we can just very simply jump there. Except it's... Transform object does not exist. Really? What did I do? Did something stupid. Yeah, this is going really well. As you can see. Let's make sure we actually got the updated level. Yeah, does look like we did. And okay. That was something weird there. So now we can jump forward and get this other vehicle placed for us. All right. Yes. So switch vehicle. Now we get the call stack. And yeah, it comes from the avatar selection, as you would sort of expect. The init vehicle HUD. Yeah. So at this point, we've already done hide and show for the interaction area. Hide vehicle HUD should perhaps not actually do this. I'm thinking. Because it should actually, like that hide, which arrives from somewhere else, which we can see where it actually does arrive from. That should be enough. We shouldn't actually need to do the hide all there. So let's put a breakpoint in hide. We can do show as well. Let me get the whole picture. Like so. Right, so we're still doing the previous switch. And now we'll switch back. Let's just jump through this quickly, because that actually works. Now we're back to where we have both of them. Okay, so switch vehicle F. We do hide, and we get the hide from hide interaction prompt, which comes from the interaction manager. Yep. Yeah, this comes from the network. As you can see, it like quite quickly just goes into like network code, and then like we're like already in WinMain. Then we get a show, and same thing. It's also an RPC. That's a little annoying sometimes. You get another show. Yeah. That's fine. And then we get the hide all. So yeah, we do have the thing that I sort of expected. It's essentially a question of we're doing things in the wrong order, but I question the presence of this call here. We're doing hide vehicle HUD. I mean, that should, in theory, also cause the gauge to go away. Is that happening, actually? I don't know. It's not actually happening. Right. So now it's working. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's probably good enough for now. So now we can interact there. If we move out of it, we get rid of it. That's cool. If we set it back to something that is inside of it, it does work as well. Let's put down another vehicle here so that we get both of the prompts. Just sort of testing all of these cases here. Up, handbrake on. Okay, so we get rid of them both. Now we set that as the avatar. We get both of them back. Yeah. Yeah, it does seem to work. Work pretty nicely now. Tutu says new stream, yay. Hello, hello. Welcome back. Welcome back for some more rambly game dev. Okay, so that's cool. That's the bug that I was looking at earlier. these are the kind of things that you typically just have to fight with until the very end of the project. Like you change something and then some of these things break, but all the cases that I can come up with right now work, at least. So that's nice. So I was thinking one thing that I still need to sort of handle with the vehicle switching is this. If you approach this thing, one of these mother vehicles from either from the front or the back, you're not close enough to its center to actually be considered close enough to switch. You need to approach from the side, and then you get the debug rendering there inside of the vehicle. So just, I mean, I kind of knew this, but it is now becoming a problem. The fact that just taking the distance between the transforms, between the positions of the objects, that's not enough. I need to come up with something better. And I was sort of thinking about how would I do that. And we can perhaps we can do something like distance between two OBBs, so oriented bounding boxes. Oh yes. And then we could sort of yeah. Yeah, you can calculate the distance of each vertex to each face, and the distance from the edge to edge. That's sort of that becomes quite heavy quite quickly if you have lots of vehicles and you want to do it every server tick or something like that. So another thing that I was thinking that we could do is approximate the distance with using spheres. So if we have like, let's drive this thing right next to the big one, like this. I'll take a screenshot and then we do a quick paint over. Paint over using paint. So we could do something like have sort of oh, where's my pencil? Here we go. Have just sort of like a sphere like this. Very nice sphere, I know. Representing the object, but then if you have like a larger object, you would represent it with multiple spheres like this. I don't know how to draw a sphere in 3D space. You would have multiple spheres like this to sort of approximate the object. If it is very long, things like that. That would also mean that if we wanted this crane to be considered one of the points on the vehicle that we want to sort of be able to switch vehicles with, we could just have like a small sphere here and then calculate the distance. Because calculating distances between spheres is very, very cheap. Set as avatar. Why can I not? Oh, that's weird. Okay, I had it paused. That's why. Yeah, so you might want to be able to use the crane to actually, like, let's say we have a vehicle over here, for example. The crane maybe isn't quite long enough to reach it, but say we have a vehicle over there, then you might want to use the crane to actually reach that object, sort of. Maybe over like a wall or a fence or something. At least that is what I'm thinking. So then we can just have a small sphere that sort of moves around in the local space of the vehicle with that. So maybe that is something to tackle next. That would make the vehicle switching much more reliable. But yeah, I don't know. Any suggestions? How to calculate distances between two vehicles in a performant and reliable manner? And yeah, this camera should be disabled. This driving camera for the mother vehicle doesn't really make any sense to have it here. So if we were to actually do that, then where would we put those spheres? Where would the spheres go? Could perhaps put them in the vehicle avatar component. Where did my thing go? Oh, the window was somehow off screen. So we have the vehicles here. And this guy has the dynamic body transform component, which is pretty large. Vehicle control component, means vehicle control, means vehicle component. Yeah, maybe means vehicle component would actually be even better. Maybe that would be the best place to actually put these things in. I'm thinking. Yeah. Yeah, probably means vehicle. And how should we go about doing that then? If we have a look at the UI definition, means data, work folder root, metadata, component UI definitions, we have means vehicle component. This guy could have an array of spheres, quite simply. Every sphere would have a local position and a radius. Those spheres would be quite simply added to the local space, and then we could even move them around at runtime. So one of those spheres could, for example, be the sphere that represents the crane arm, or rather the end of the crane arm, shall we say. Something like that. Yeah. Maybe we'll go with that. So what we'll do is we'll add a new type here. call this? Let's call this something like proximity sphere. Vehicle avatar role. This would be proximity sphere. And what do we call it? Volume sphere. Not exactly sure. Let's call it what it is. It is a vehicle volume sphere. These are used probably only for vehicles. And it has a vector 3, yes. So this would be position. Position. Quite simply, the position in local space where the sphere center of the sphere center. Yeah, and it can be just position like this. And then we have radius. And it is a float. It defaults to maybe 1. Radius, radius, radius of the sphere. And we don't need the type. I don't think we need a type. And then the means vehicle component. We can add a list of these guys. I'm gonna need to remind myself what the syntax looks like here. So if we go to vehicle, is it avatar component? This has a list of roles. Looks like this. Right. Roles. So this would be volume spheres. And the type is the new sphere which we created. So vehicle volume sphere. Max length 8. Yeah, that's probably quite alright. And we call this volume spheres. The spheres defining the volume of the vehicle. Approximate volume of the vehicle, right? Volume spheres. Something like this. And now if we reload this, non-float default value for float control radius. Really? Here. Oh, it probably needs to be not in double quotes. Yes, how it works. So vehicle blueprints, we just reload this thing. Right, okay, yeah, unknown field. We get a bug here, we can just shut that down. We get a crash essentially in the game there because we're not actually reading that. And the Zig JSON parser goes like, what is this thing? Because it is set to want to know about all of those. So, right, now we have a list of these guys. You can add more elements to the list. All of them have a position and a radius. That's kind of nice. Before we start adding any of them, though, maybe we should actually parse that data and then render them as like debug spheres there in the preview. Let's shut that down for now. And I'll split this into 2. I'll drag this off to this side. We have the means vehicle component, right? So we need to parse a bunch of things out of the JSON, the generated JSON data, which has this name, volume spheres. And each volume sphere will have a position and a radius. Actually, what we can do very quickly is just we can open this up, open up the vehicle blueprints, and just save this guy. Then we can, for example, explore to it, and we should see what it actually did. Right, so every vehicle now has a volume spheres list where every item has a position and a radius, and that's what we want to parse. So let's do that. So we go to means vehicle component. I'm gonna make this a little smaller so I don't have an easier time working with this. So we have the means vehicle component properties. That's essentially the stuff that we see in the asset browser there, with all the settings that we can set for all the components, etc. So essentially this gets stuck on the window border there. Essentially this thing. So currently we have a vehicle description path and a vehicle controller type, and we can see that we have both of them here. Okay. So I think now that we have, I think and I hope that this is how the Zig JSON reader works. We need to define essentially this volume sphere type here. So let's do that. Let's add a new struct. We call this volume sphere struct. And volume spheres have a position, which is essentially a slice of F32s. Right? Isn't it? What is this actually? Unused local constant. Ah, right. And then a radius, which is also an F32. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that it considers this unused constant, but I guess it is. We're not using it anywhere. Right, and then the props. This has a list of these guys. Volume spheres. So essentially a slice of volume sphere. Right. Yeah. Let's call this actually prop volume sphere, because I want to define another volume sphere for us, and I want to define it probably here. I'll make this a public const. And this one, I want to make the position not a list of floats, but actually a vector 3. And radius is still a vector. Can't type radius. Like so. And then probably this guy has... yeah, we made the maximum amount of those spheres be 8, if I remember correctly. So we can just use a bounded array there. So let's call this volume sphere. List would be std bounded array of volume sphere with a maximum count of 8. And we should probably assert there that we don't get more than 8 of those. And then this guy has just volume spheres, a volume sphere list. Yeah. Let's see if this builds. Yes. Right. I did have some class here, by the way, that if we search for that, we should get all the components that actually have blueprint properties. Let's see, AI driving properties. Yes, we have quite a lot of stuff here. Driveline position offset, for example. Right. Okay. I'm just looking at how have I previously converted. This is like an actual vector tree, while this is like a list of things. So yeah, quite simply just taken them out of that. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's not the nicest thing ever, but oh well. Oh well. Avatar role tracker. Right, so here we have actually, yeah, init from slice. This is what I was kind of hoping I would find. Yeah, I probably added this later, so we can init a vector tree from a slice of F32s. Yeah, that looks better, and this is actually it's using a bounded areas array as well. Road list. Yeah. Yeah, that's better. I'm gonna drag that off to the other window so that I can see it. And then we'll follow that components ideas. Right, so actually, yeah, I need to init this, and I probably need to like try init it. It's a little stupid that we need to try init it to 0, but it is what it is. So volume sphere list dot init 0, like so. And then here we have essentially like we have a for loop. We can iterate over the props dot value dot volume spheres. We get a volume sphere, let's call it VS, which is a prop volume sphere. Indeed. And we can init a new type of thing, but actually let's not do that yet. Let's first do actually it's probably fine. Let's do volume sphere and then do position. And now we can do basis math vec3 init from slice vs position, and then radius is vs.radius. Yeah. And self volume spheres. Let's do append assume capacity and sphere, and I'm just gonna, that doesn't need to be a var actually. I'm just gonna assert here that we don't have more than 8 of them currently. So assert that props value volumes volume spheres length is at most volume sphere list. Is it capacity? I think so. Oh, don't I have actually? Yeah, maybe you can't actually do that. Buffer capacity. Can you get this out of the type? I was thinking you would probably be able to do that. Buffer capacity. Oh, len. Right, len is the thing that we want. Like so. Len is not marked as pub. Okay, well, whatever then. Max volume sphere count is 8. Put that there. Why is len not pub? There's probably a reason, I guess. That should work. Okay. So now with this, we should be able to actually load those guys into the thing, into the component. I'd like to see them on screen though. Right. So on message pre-tick. Like the thing is that this guy, this means vehicle component, is created here in the asset browser preview. So basically this window here. You should be able to just quite simply debug draw those spheres if we want to. And so, if I remember correctly, the update signature looks like self pointer delta time f32, which we're not going to use currently, but still like so, and then yeah, in editor, I think this only returns true if we are in like the, what do you call it, the level editor. So that's not actually what we want. There's something called like app mode, isn't there? Mode. Let's search for app mode. Get app mode. Right. App mode game. And this can tell us this if we are specifically in the asset browser. Yeah, okay, so self context get app mode. Yeah, but that is the actual app though. App mode game. Not sure if we can read this actually from a component. Yeah. Well, I mean, we can write this to like global data if we want to, but that's sort of a hack as well. There's a global app pointer though. So if we search for like means.app, right? I bet we're actually using that in some places, yeah. That's not the nicest thing to do, but let's do it for now anyway. Our context get app mode. If we are in the asset browser, then actually before we do that, let's see if can we find it from get app. Yeah, we don't have the same app mode here. Should probably expose it somehow, but this is nasty. Don't read directly from the app pointer. Yeah. We'll see. There's still development stuff though, so it's not that bad, but it's not nice. The component should be able to know if we are in the asset browser or not. Anyway, blueprint properties. So we can use the blueprint properties, and we actually assert that we do have them. So even though they are sort of optional, we don't need to necessarily concern ourselves with that fact. And we can do BP props volume spheres. Get the volume sphere out of there. And then we do basis UI. No, basis debug draw. Draw sphere vs position. Right, it's actually, that's probably not what we want. We want the slice. There we go. Now this thing should know that what we actually have here is like a volume sphere. Doesn't really do that though, does it? Still, it should work. So let's just try this. I think this is just a case of the language server being a little confused. This is color, I don't know, orange, maybe. Something like that. Let's build this. And we see what we have. Right, so this succeeded. Let's try it out. Right, so here we can already see one of our spheres. If we make it a little larger, you can see it get larger there in the view as well. And now this guy probably can make do with just one sphere, but let's add a few just to test out the system. So this would be probably like the front sphere would be like slightly smaller. 0.4, that's a bit much. 0.2. Is it maybe a little too small now? Something like that. Okay, that's good. And we add another one. This can be roughly in the center of the vehicle, and it can be like 0.4 maybe. That's a little much. I mean, these are not used for like collision detection or anything, so it doesn't need to be like, super done with like very high precision. These are essentially just hints to the system, so that like how far away are we from another object, from another interactable object. Oh, we have Loris in the chat. Hey, hello. It's a proper celebrity in the chat. Welcome. Maybe something like that. So now I get sort of the idea what I'm going for here. Maybe that should be even just a little bit further back. So a very approximate sort of volume representation of this thing. Now if we go to the mother vehicle and we do the same thing here, it should be way larger. What should we use? Like 4, 5, maybe, and move it forward quite a bit. Something like that, maybe. So I'm thinking like we'll probably want to have like maybe 4 of them or something, because you don't want to leave too large spaces in between, because then you can stand like right next to the vehicle essentially, but still not be sort of close enough to it. Let's make all of the radii 5. Put that in the way in the back, and then this can be like 6 and maybe -6. Like so. So maybe we'll want one more there in the very center then. Like so. Does that look good? I think that probably looks good. Okay. And these guys probably need some of these as well, otherwise we're not gonna be able to actually interact with them. I'm just gonna make them have one. We will need to actually properly tweak these later on. Let's just to have something here. And this is the truck that's actually, this is sort of off scale a little bit. So that's annoying, but let's just make this like, that's too large. 7. It's probably too large still. 5. 5 is probably enough. And then this one, this this is probably like scaled. But still, I'm just gonna represent it with just one currently. That's too large. 5, still too large. 4.5. It's probably better. Actually, this is perhaps not the best idea. Yeah, here you can see the problem with spheres, because this thing is way longer than it is wide. Okay, let's just bite the bullet and add like a few of these guys here. Maybe 2. 2 is probably fine. Celebrity lorries, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, that looks almost correct. Maybe we can do it like 3. The last one looks quite all right, I think. I would just move that like half a unit forward, and then we'll move them up a little bit. Yeah, so I don't have any fancy editors for like dragging around things, as you can see. But since we have the preview here, just inputting them by hand is typically good enough. Cool. We can do sort of a sanity check in the game if we want to. So let's take away this if statement here. I just need to put in a brace there, bracket. Why use spheres? Well, because the the distance calculation between spheres is much faster than it is between boxes or cylinders or something. That is why. We don't get it here. Why don't we get it? So we have the update. And this is created on the client, so we should be able to see this on the client. Oh, yes, I know exactly why. Yeah, because we're working in this is local space, right? First of all, we can make sure that we are actually on the client here. So on client, right, and just wrap all of this in that, and maybe format this a little nicer. And then we do world matrix. This would be self context transform get world matrix. And then we take this thing, and so we want the like world pos to be world matrix transform point vs position, and then of course we need it to be here, world pos. And now we should see the thing. They're still not going to be rotated because we're not like actually rotating the actual sphere sphere positions. So now if we move this thing around, you will see that they are they're unrotated spheres like this, right? And you can see that they're sort of they're jittering a little bit, and that's because they are using the uninterpolated transform values. So the physics always runs at 60 FPS. The renderer doesn't necessarily run at 60 FPS, even though we're currently locked at 60 FPS here. but the renderer uses interpolated values, and we're not interpolating those values. So this is good. This should make it relatively easy to get an approximate distance between these guys. No format on save. Yes, I have format on save, don't I? If I do this, then it saves and it formats. Yes. How's a game dev experience using Zig? It's mostly pretty nice. It's mostly pretty nice. I mean, I could go on the normal game dev rant about why don't we have operator overloading, but that is of course because I'm not, or shall we say it's partly alleviated if you're using the vector types of Zig, which I'm not currently doing, because I started porting this engine to Zig many years ago already at this point, when the vectors weren't really stable or necessarily usable, and also because I basically just wanted to have the same sort of conventions as I have on the C++ side. But yes, it's mostly pleasant. I would say, like, probably the biggest problems for me currently is the debugging is a bit lackluster, and that's not really something that's very fair to criticize, because we're essentially debugging with C++ debuggers, and so it's kind of almost like a small miracle that it works as well as it does. But it doesn't work all that great. You can do debugging with a bunch of different debuggers. Some of them work better for certain things. For example, I'm developing most of the Zig stuff in VS Code, and the Microsoft C++ debugger there works for some things. Then some other things seem to show up nicer if I use like proper Visual Studio. But the overall Zig experience in Visual Studio is not as nice. And then you have like Remedy BG and perhaps even Rad debugger for doing other things. But yes, debugging could be a lot nicer. And then I am currently I'm building the Zig parts in debug mode currently, because like the engine is a C++ engine that's just bound to Zig, so I can use a release version of the engine, which gives me enough performance while still using debug Zig DLLs or shared objects, because building the release Zig DLL is just way too slow to like properly iterate on. So compiler speed is a thing, but I mean that's something that Andrew talked a lot about in the last update, so I'm hoping, and of course like hot update or hot reloading would be really nice to have that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's mostly pretty nice. It's mostly pretty nice. It would be nicer if I was using like a pure C code base. Of course, that would like I'm not really leveraging Zig's C interop to its full extent, and that is mostly because I'm sitting on this quite large C++ code base, and I'm using things like physx, which is a large C++ physics engine, things like that. So if you want to do that with Zig, then you just sort of have to kind of deal with the fact that interoping is not as easy as it if you were using just raw C. Dwarf version 5 added a language code for Zig. Cool. I don't know how much that benefits like Windows users. So so yes, I do work in the games industry as like a tech programmer outside of the Madrigal work, and I will say that this is not necessarily my opinion, but I will say that my view of the industry is that if something doesn't work on Windows, it just basically does not exist. So if you're asking my opinion about like how good is Zig for game development, then you'll want to make sure that the Windows support is top notch, because that is really where it's all at. Not that I have anything against like Linux or Mac or whatever else. I'm actually kind of annoyed with Microsoft and their recent things, but I don't really use that stuff currently. So yeah, Dwarf doesn't necessarily help me all that much. Right, yeah, sorry, I had to take a phone call there. Yeah, compiler speed will be the first thing to improve, probably. Yeah, yes, I understand that. And I mean, even if none of these things improve dramatically, I'm probably still going to be using Zig, at least for this project. And I'll try to get something playable released soonish. So for me, it's definitely something I'm planning on sticking with, at least for the foreseeable future. And I mean, there are lots and lots of things that are just so much more nice to do in Zig than in C++. It's not even funny. That is, of course, why I use Zig. Thank you for the overview. It'll take some time before these things get improved. Yes, I understand. That's quite fine. And I mean, as far as I know, the sort of general consensus is still that you shouldn't really necessarily use Zig for production things. So that's sort of my own fault if I have something that's not really working. Right, where were we? So now we have these spheres here in the world. They look correct. So we did this world matrix multiplication here. This should work even in the asset browser. Yep. Because the thing should always be sitting on the, I'll have like the identity transform. So it should be fine. Yeah, this thing is kind of silly. I'm just going to put in a few spheres here, otherwise I'm just going to get very confused myself when I look at this at some point. Not 30, but 3. 5 is too much. 4 is probably all right. 2.5. Move it up a little bit. Move that back a little bit. 0.5. That's 4. Something like this. Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, so now we need to essentially iterate over all the spheres. Iterate over all the spheres of another vehicle and get the sort of the closest distance, and that is the distance between the two vehicles. So, how do we do the distance calculation currently then? I think it is the interaction manager which does that. Interaction Manager Zig. The production usage of Zig is starting to happen. Companies have started asking for workshops to ramp up their devs on Zig. I will run my first workshop in a couple of weeks. That's cool. That's very cool. Yeah. Yeah, I don't see any immediate problem, like unless there's some like planned breakages that I don't know about. I don't see any immediate problems with using Zig for games. Wouldn't necessarily use it on like a medical device or something without some kind of guarantee that stuff won't break. But yeah, games is, I think it's probably entering the area where it's actually quite safe to use. To be honest, I've been using Zig since like version 0.5, I think. I don't even remember anymore, and I haven't had any like really big deal breaker issues. Even back then, I had some really strange things happening, like on Mac, with some interrupt things, like returning structs by value was broken or something. But I haven't really had any really big issues with the language or the compiler itself, even back then. I mean, LS or ZLS, the LSP language server was kind of crashy, which was definitely annoying. And you can see it in some of my older videos when I'm trying to get something done. There's the video series called Hyper, where I make like a twin stick shooter on the same engine that I'm using now, and the language server just like misbehaves on almost every video. But yeah, the like overall experience with the language has been really nice. Mac got much better after KubeCon joined. Yeah, and that fix that bug was fixed as well. How's your experience with CLS lately? Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's not crashing. I haven't had a crash probably for like half a year. I had something just a few minutes ago. Let's see, where was it? I think it was here. Blah blah blah. Wasn't it? Like, if we comment out these things, we get the order fixed there. Yeah, that's fine. Then we do vs dot, like it can't show it to me for some reason, right? Like volume spheres is a bounded array. We have volume sphere, very simple struct. We have volume sphere list. It's a stud bounded array of volume spheres, 8 of them. But for some reason, when I iterate over the volume spheres, like it doesn't know what this is. It's unknown. And if I do vs dot, then it doesn't work. So I mean, it's not perfect. It's still not perfect. And this is not something that happens all the time, but for now, for whatever reason, this didn't seem to work. If I go here and I go BP props, then it shows me the contents of this thing just fine. So yeah, not sure what happens. Like if I do probably like const vs, let's do just underscore, and then just properly type this. So it's I guess it's like mean vehicle properties dot volume sphere vs. And now I can do vs underscore, and now it shows the position and radius. So yeah, it's much better than it was. It still occasionally doesn't show something. But yeah, nothing big, and no crashes lately, so that's nice. Right. Interaction Manager. Let's go here and have a look-see. Yeah, ZLS can't run comp time, so everything it understands comp point wise result in interpreting the AST. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I understand. It's a really tricky thing to actually address fully, and I'm let's just say I'm constantly surprised by how much it actually does know about the things that your comp time passing around. So yeah, it's no big deal. It might, of course, be kind of confusing if you would give this now to someone completely new. I mean, I've been sort of marinated in the rawness of Zig for a number of years, so I kind of go like, okay, it doesn't know what this is. I'll just add the type there, and then it knows. But if you're coming from like a C# world where like the IntelliSense is just ridiculously good, then it might just feel very broken. So something to keep in mind. But yeah, it doesn't really stop me in my tracks. Distance. Yeah, get vehicle switch target. So this thing is where we would then iterate over those spheres. And how do we do that? Currently we're just using, we have player vehicle, which is a vehicle. Yeah, it has a means vehicle component. That's actually good, because I didn't actually plan this, but means vehicle is where we actually get those spheres from, right? No. So player vehicle dot means vehicle dot. Yeah, this is gets kind of long actually. Volume sphere list, something like this. But yeah, basically this should work. This should be the place where we can actually look at all of those. So let's see. The player vehicle comes in. We iterate over the vehicles, right? So all the vehicles are registered here. Can vehicles interact? I think this is just hard-codedly true. Yeah, it is hard-codedly true unless we have a vehicle that's some other player's vehicle. But I have a to-do here to actually check if we can switch to that vehicle or not. All right. And yeah, this is now the thing. So here we're just using the transform. We're going via the means vehicle pointer, yeah. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, so we're getting this player transform API. This is just essentially like the center of the vehicle, which may be actually very, very far from the boundary or the side of the vehicle or something. And then we do distance squared, just because distance squared is faster than calculating distances. No square roots involved, and then we check, so then we get the closest distance. And we also store like an optional string hash to the closest target vehicle. Yeah, that's fine. Where was that's the max switch velocity is like 10 kilometers per hour, and the max distance is like 8 world units. Okay. That should be fine. That should be fine. Am I forgetting something? I don't think so. I could ask Loris here while you're in the chat, if you are indeed still in the chat. What would be the easiest way to get notified about like upcoming breakages in Zig language versions? It's a bit unclear to me where I should actually sort of try to watch out for those. Like typically when I update Zig versions, I try to stay like relatively up to date with the master. And typically when I update, I get, or if I get some errors, it obviously doesn't happen all the time, but if I get some errors, then, you know, you try to run like Zig format on them, and it fixes some of those automatically, and that's very nice. And then occasionally it doesn't do that, and then I just have to go sort of finding based on keywords in Discord, something like that. And I've been thinking for a while that there's probably some place somewhere where you could actually sort of monitor these things. They're probably listed like heads up things about like upcoming breakages or something like that. So if there is something like that, just let us know in the chat. Okay. Right, master to master, is it any curated document? It's also true is the repository. Field label breaking, then our merge will have some information. Okay. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah, I haven't really been scouring through PRs, but that's fine. If stay on a tagged release, the release knows the subsequent release will have an upgrade guide. Yeah, indeed. But I mean, who stays on tagged releases? If you're doing any serious development. Yeah, the Zig release notes are actually not that bad. They're quite good, but typically they're just, for me at least, they're just like way too much there, because I usually sit on like a month old version or a version from a few weeks ago. So a few weeks ago the HTTP server API steadily changed, and the PR had a bunch of information about it. Okay, that's cool. Well, I mean, yeah, the PR notes then basically is where you would want to look for these sorts of things. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I wasn't sort of expecting like a curated list or anything. More of just like wondering if there was like a specific Discord chat room or something where people would like were encouraged to yell if they knew about some upcoming thing. But PR notes are fine. Especially if they're labeled like breaking or something. All right. How should we do this now? Basically, we wanna iterate over all the spheres, and then we wanna iterate over all the other spheres. So it's not a super lightweight operation actually. It gets sort of like exponentially more heavy with time. But we are running this check on the server, which runs on a background thread by default, so you don't affect rendered frame rates immediately. But yeah, I should probably profile this a little bit and see how well it performs. I don't know how serious SlimSag wants to be with nominated Zig versions, but I might publish a list of commits with each nominated version. Yeah, that looked interesting. Interesting. They have a pretty good sort of well, it's clearly a system that they set up for themselves, obviously, but might be interesting to look at for other people as well. So that might be something to look at. Oh yeah, it's not really an issue for me. It's been nice to see that Zig format actually fixes quite a few of these problems. You just need to sort of open and save the file, and then it takes care of a lot of that for you. So it's not a problem per se. Okay. Right. Let's see if we can still get this. I need to probably end the stream relatively soon, but maybe I can go for like half an hour or something still. So let's see. Blah, 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 blah. So the player vehicle, let's actually see, the player vehicle always has a means vehicle pointer, right? Yes, that's not an optional one. You need to have one of these guys if you are a vehicle in this game. You can have a game unit, but that is not required. So that's fine. A means vehicle always has essentially a blueprint properties. I mean, it is an optional pointer because it needs to be, because all blueprint properties are technically optional. But we are asserting here that we actually have them in on object created. So that's fine. Maybe I want to hide this behind some sort of nicer facade though. If this changes later on. Let's do actually no, let's not do that now. Let's just keep using this. Yeah, we always have volume spheres. So this would be player volume spheres. And then we essentially, well, we can do this check before we start poking at any kind of spheres at all. And that also is a const, which we can just move up somewhere. Then we iterate over the volume spheres. So player volume spheres buffer, right? I think it's buffer. And we call this player volume sphere, PVS. Yeah, here for example, you can see that like it looks like CLS actually knows that this is a volume sphere now, which is kind of interesting, I guess, because it didn't here previously. Oh, it was using the slice. Yeah, maybe that's probably what we want to use too, right? Yeah, and now it doesn't do that anymore. Yeah, that's interesting. The buffer is, I guess, like, yeah, this is the raw array. So you don't actually want to use that. You want to use the slice, which is the correctly sized one. But when you switch to size slice, this thing goes away. Yeah, now it doesn't know that anymore. Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. Right, so player volume sphere is PVS, yes, and then we iterate over the other vehicles, and we do the can vehicles interact check first. That's good. We also check it that we're not comparing against ourselves. So then we have other vehicle volume spheres, and that would be v value pointer means vehicle blueprint properties volume spheres. That's kind of horrible Have to go through all of those because we're going through like 2 pointers here. That's not nice, but it is what it is. And it is good enough until proven otherwise. So for other vehicle volume spheres, so other volume sphere, PVS and OVS. And then we do transform, we get the distance out of that, distance squared. So it's basically like we want to do this stuff, but we don't want to do it like this. We want to iterate over all of those, and actually these things should go outside of the for loop. Distance squared, this needs to be a variable. Distance squared, and we can initialize it to like basis math largest number. Right. The target vehicle is moving too fast. Yeah, we can actually check that before we start messing around with the spheres. Right. Yeah, the target vehicle is moving too fast. We don't need to check any spheres at all. And this is never mutated. Well, we will start mutating it soon. And then all of this is the same, basically. That's cool. Right, so the distance between spheres is like the distance between the center of the spheres minus the radii. That is the beauty of using the spheres, that the distance check is just very, very simple. And where was the? There's the player volume sphere. We wanna transpose or transform that into world space first of all. So let's again get player world matrix, player transform world matrix. And then here we want to have player volume sphere world. That would be player world matrix transform point PVS dot. And again, it doesn't know what to actually show us, but it was called position. Like so. And here we want to get the other vehicle world matrix. So let's get that other vehicle world matrix. Actually need that to get the world matrix. Get world matrix. And then here we can do OVS, other world, other vehicle sphere, or other volume sphere, if you will. World would be other vehicle world matrix transform point OVS, like so. And we don't really transform the directions at all. I kind of consider it, I don't think it's necessarily, because we don't scale the vehicles ever. So the local space radii, they should be fine to use in world space as well. Right. So let's see. we don't necessarily actually need the distance squared here, do we? Yeah, okay, well we do need the distance squared because we'll want to have the distance squared between those points. But that sort of confuses me a little bit. So let's use distance for now. I know this is going to be a little slower than using distance squared, but let's use it for now, and then we can go back to using squared distances once I have this formula sorted out. So we'll want to have OBS, or we can start from the player volume sphere world. That's vector 3 minus the player what's it called, is PVS dot radius, right? Actually, that's not correct. Let's do the sub first. So PVS world dot OBS world, that gives us the distance from the player's sphere to the other vehicle's sphere, and then that would be length. And then we subtract the PVS radius, and we also subtract the OBS radius. Right. That gives us the distance. Max distance squared is up there, and we don't want the squared currently, so let's just comment that out, use max distance instead. Right, so distance. So the target vehicle is too far away. And yeah, we want to use that actually. Yeah, this actually goes into for loop. I don't know why I thought it wouldn't go in the for loop earlier. Probably that, right? Does my math check out? I think it does. Max distance squared. Yeah, it used to be just max distance. Comp time float. Let's make it an F32. It's not an indexable. That's true. We need the slice. So many errors. That was position. All right. So that built. So closest distance, it is, yeah, it's a variable and it's up there. So we can print it down here actually. Now this should return null, like if we don't actually have something. So we can do basis print f closest distance. What is it? D.2. I think so. And then new line. Closest distance. Print f. So the 8 meter or 8 world unit max switch distance might actually be a little too large now, too big, I assume. Right, closest distance 3.12. That looks all right. Whoa. All right, yeah, it's the largest number, of course. Right, 7, that's fine. Yeah, we're driving too fast and it stops printing. Yeah. 2 meters, 1 meter. Yeah, 1 world unit is 1 meter. By the way. Let's see. Seems to work all right still. Yeah. Now, of course, the interesting thing is with the mother vehicle, if we put one of those down, we should start seeing it. Yeah, we should probably highlight the closest of the spheres for both of these guys. But yeah, you can clearly see, you have to sort of look through the thing currently to see that it's actually green there in the middle. But yeah, this seems to work quite all right. Now we can approach it from any angle essentially. Same thing goes with this guy, because it was really tricky. It was essentially impossible previously to switch from the mother vehicle to another. But now we can do that. Hey. That's cool. That's cool. What about, can we switch to another mother vehicle? Let's put down another one over there. Let's see if that works. Yep. That works. Yeah. That's fine. And then of course we can improve the system by letting these cranes actually act as one of those, or the tip of the crane act as one of those spheres. We should, I guess, still be able to use the same bounded array for them. We just mutate one of them. So we'll probably just add one more sphere, like here, hovering above the thing in the asset browser, and that is then the last one in the list that we move around, something like that. Okay. That's nice. And then if we're really fancy, we can even do like raycasts between these spheres and make sure we don't hit any other object in between them and disqualify them if we do. But I don't think we need to do that currently. We might have to do that later. Nice. Okay. Nice. Okay, I think this is pretty much it for today's stream. This was pretty good. Got some nice work done. Do you have any questions about today's work or anything? Yeah, I have a profiler here that I mean, you can use any profile like Tracy or whatever superluminal to profile this thing, of course. But I have a profiler here that I might want to actually expose to Zig as well. We can see all kinds of things here about the performance of the game. But I don't think this is actually exposed to Zig yet. I should make that happen. We have the server update is there. Yeah, server update is actually really small. We also don't necessarily want to do that proximity check every single tick. It's probably unnecessary. Though without profiling it, it's kind of not a very good idea to start to actually remove calls to it before we know, or until we know that it's actually a performance issue, because it might not be. But yeah, that is something to keep in mind. We might not need to actually do these checks every single update. Basis server update. Yeah, we're talking about some minuscule amounts of time here. We have like 100th of a millisecond, almost a microsecond, the server update currently. And then we go here and then we see like, oh, the renderer is taking up like all the time. Client ticking actually does take quite a lot. Oh, but the thing is actually probably in the server ticking, right? I bet it is. I bet it's in the server ticking, not server update. Yeah, the interaction manager is probably hooked it into the ticking. I mean, it should be. But still, we're hovering at around 1 millisecond, so. So, you know. What we can do, of course, is just quite simply. I think that is the only place where we call that, right? And just quite simply take that away. And see if we're still sitting at around 1 millisecond. I mean, I would almost expect that distance check to show up somewhere. We have the frame, server update ticking. It's a little lower, but it also might just be because of like we should really be in the same place when we actually make these profilings. Yeah. It's a bit lower. Not like a huge amount though. And we actually have quite a few cars here in this level currently. Don't probably have quite this many cars in most levels. But maybe. I don't know. Yeah, this is a very unscientific way of profiling. Yeah, connect frame. And where's the server ticking? It's right there. Yeah, it's not immediately obvious to me that there's any change here, but I mean, actually adding those profile blocks there, exposing them to Zig, will tell us the exact amount of time that check takes. So, something to keep in mind. Yeah, some of these distances are a little long now. We might want to have like a different distance, switch distance to a mother vehicle than to one of these smaller guys. But yeah, I think it works quite all right. Let's get rid of that debug rendering. Actually, we don't need that at all, or we do need it, but we only need it in the in this app mode, as asset browser app mode. My voice is very low. Oh, sorry. Is it better now? I hope it's better now. Maybe I was just sitting a little further away from the microphone. This car collision is only 3 sphere colliders. It's not collision actually. We're not checking collisions. If you want collisions, then we can see what the collisions look like. They look like this. That's on the client, and then we have on the server. And yeah, again, you can see them jittering a little bit because we're not actually we're not interpolating the physics here. So these are the collisions. What those spheres are actually they are there to get an approximate distance from one vehicle to another. In order to determine how close you are to another vehicle. Hello there, Victor. I'm quite fine, thank you. How are you? Been doing quite a lot of work already today. I'm actually almost ready to end the stream, but nice of you to step in for a bit. Maybe it's the mic gain. Yeah, maybe it is. I'll try to reposition my mic a little bit here. See if it's better. Sound is okay for me, but I'm using headphones. This is a very fancy engine. Well, thank you very much. I don't know if I agree with that, but but thank you regardless. And yes, it's completely self-made. It is completely self-made. Of course, I'm using quite a few libraries like physics and that sort of thing to handle the physics, but yes, the engine is self-made. Yes, you're still participating. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, no, there's been quite a lot of good discussion today. And quite a lot of good work also. I have developed everything myself, yes. Believe it or not. It has been going on for quite a few years though. So it started out very humble beginnings. Right, so here we can see like obviously the debug sphere that you can see around vehicles. It's not supposed to be there. I need to come up with something better. Like if we drive closer to this guy now here, you can see like a green sphere that's sort of highlighting that thing. If you drive closer to this big mother vehicle here, and you just get this this prompt switch vehicle. You don't see it first of all. That's of course that's not really a problem because that sphere is going to go away. But you can clearly see that we need a better indicator of what you're actually switching to, right? Let's put another vehicle there, and now if you go like, well now we're switching to that vehicle. But if we go like ever so slightly this way, now we're switching to this big vehicle. Now we're switching to that, and now it switched to that. So yeah, we need a better way to actually visualize these things. I don't plan to necessarily have this many vehicles though in like a typical level. Yeah. I must be an effing genius. I assure you I am not an effing genius. I'm just someone who's spent quite a few Friday nights at home on the code editor. I'm doing maybe totally nonsense stuff this week. We're experimenting on an idea from Carmack. Quake Confi 2015. It is to create 2 game frame stacks. Each frame you iterate through the previous stack frame to resolve the new one. Okay. Okay. That's interesting. Kind of reminds me a little bit of, like at least conceptually, of like of doing like game programming with functional languages where you're not really mutating anything. You're sort of creating a new frame based on the previous frame. You're not like modifying or mutating the frames. Creating a completely new frame based on the previous frame as an input. Can we actually lift one of these other mother vehicles with a crane? That would be interesting to know. I might have done that way back when I tweaked the physics of this. Yeah, the previous stack is marked const. Yes. Yes, I did dabble with game programming in Erlang, of all things, some years ago, and the idea was kind of interesting that you're sort of, you just have a frame and you have a previous frame, and you sort of, you're not allowed to mutate anything. You just take the previous frame in, and then based on that you create a new one. All right, let's see. Let's give us some cable here. We're stuck. I bet the other vehicle has its brakes engaged. And there's not really any way to disengage the brake without actually controlling that vehicle. Yeah, here you can see that the crane doesn't actually have collisions except for the very tip of it, which is something I need to put in. Yeah, but this is fun. Crane gameplay is always fun. Oh well. Like maybe oh yeah, the front of the car actually collided with that. All right. Well, it's nice to explore new areas sometimes when you get bored. Indeed, absolutely. That is how I started out with Zig, actually. And then I was like, well, this language is actually really, really nice. It started off with me being bored with C++ and going like, I hate this shit. And then it just turned out to be really useful. So yes, indeed, absolutely. And occasionally you do something like that, and then you realize that it was more than just a fun experiment. And I mean, Lord knows I've done my fair share of fun experiments with this tech stack as well. Did you write the grid checker shader yourself? You mean the checkerboard thing that everything is covered in? So every mesh which doesn't have a texture have the grid checker by default. I mean, yes, I bet I did. I bet I did. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. It's probably like in here somewhere. Default material. So diffuse texture is right. That's like that's something called a material override, and fallback diffuse texture is probably the texture that you are talking about. If we put in like a texture resource node here, you can see, voila. Yeah, that's the fallback one. It just happens to be the texture that the engine sets as the default one. So if you override that, it will just use something else. But yes, this is essentially the shader. It's a super simple one. Super simple one. Well, it doesn't look all that simple when you look at the generated code, but that's just mostly because there's so much crap in here. Did you make the physics yourself too? No, well, this game uses physx. physx 4 currently. I have a 5 integration that I've sort of started, but they redid the vehicle system in physx 5 quite a bit, and I haven't ported over this stuff to that. So it's even more simpler than what I did. I generate the texture on the fly with shader code. Yeah, sure. I mean, yes, that's definitely something you can do if you want to. But yeah, no, this is just a PNG file somewhere. Fallback texture diffuse PNG. Yeah, 256 by 256. It's actually kind of small. But yeah, basically these things are almost all just using super simple materials for now. Like you have these objects here are essentially just the same material, all of them. They just have a color override. So you have a green one, you have a gray one, you have I think this is called like the brick one, and this is like the sand one, and there's a lighter gray one, and there's a blue one over there as well, used for that elevator thingy. All these editors must have taken you ages to do all this. It took quite a long time. Yes, if you're talking about this editor, there's actually a video series where I cover how I built this thing, and I have quite a few of these node editors these days. simple solutions are always the best. They are quite often the best, but they're not the most fun. But yes, you're right. Of course, building a game engine and then a game with the game engine is not the simplest solution to begin with. At some point you have to go like, okay, I did all of this, now let's do something simple. Yes. Anyway, we have almost finished now with the interaction stuff, right? So, in the next stream, I should be probably able to do something completely different. If we go have a look at the editor quickly here. And we can get rid of this one layer that I created a layer earlier in the stream to try to find a bug that I was looking at. Why are they so professional? I assure you they're not. I assure you they're kind of crappy when you start using them. You intend to sell or license the engine. I intend to release the engine as part of the game. That is my hope, at least. I'm not promising anything, but I do intend to make it so that people can actually build completely new like campaigns and things, maybe even like total conversions. That is my intention. But no, it just basically started as like me wanting to build something cool. Right, so we have this thing here. This is the interaction area for the monorail. So this should have one interaction is what we have here. This is a script function that gets called whenever you interact with this thing. So first of all, we should probably move this a bit closer to the actual monorail here. We probably want to make it so that this interaction area can display some sort of sensible message to you. Let's fly over there actually and have a look. So if we put a vehicle here and then drive down this road here, this area, rather than saying something like press E to interact like it currently does, it should say something like press E to, call monorail or something, and then if it's on the other end, then it would come here. So that's cool. And then if it is here, you should probably open that door. Like currently you can just drive through. It doesn't have collisions or anything. Oh, we can switch to this other vehicle now. And then we can invoke a development script called start monorail, which will actually start this thing. Hey, and that other vehicle is just falling through. Yes, we need collisions for this door or this ramp. And we need to make this monorail a bit more sensible. And there probably needs to be interaction areas in the other end as well. Do you handle LODs so far? I handle a few different kinds of LODs, yes. The mesh format supports LODs. I don't have LODs for these meshes. These are so low poly, obviously. But currently here in this level we have like terrain LODs. You can actually see if we enable the terrain LOD bounds. You can see here that where it actually sort of switches between. So there are 3 levels currently. You can have more if you need, or less if you don't need. You can see it switch from green to yellow to red. I mean, this terrain is so smooth here that you can't really see any difference. But maybe here in the more steeper cliffs, you can see like a little bit of change there when we move closer, and then even more. But I mean, this is completely unsculpted terrain, essentially, just very, very rough. Rough stuff in that sense. But the meshes aren't loaded currently here. They are, like you said, they are low poly enough to be rendered all the time the same fidelity. And I kind of hope to actually, well, I don't mind using LODs, of course, but I am planning to make this game pretty low fidelity, or sort of low geometric fidelity, perhaps is the best way to put it. So I might not actually need to have LODs for these meshes in this game. Yes, it is my own engine. It's called Basis, and it's something that I've worked on for God knows how many years at this point. Open the main gate. Yes, there's a script editor in the level editor. It's not necessarily that surprising, I hope. Low poly allows simplicity. Yes, it does. I mean, we played a little bit of Project Slide in the previous stream, which is the older game project that I was originally planning to build with this thing. And here we have a fully decorated level. This is the same game engine, but it's not the same game, and this is actually not written in Zig. This is just completely written in C++. And this is a game project that I've put sort of on hold for now. But here you can see a level that was sort of the visual sort of target for what I was going for at the time. The gameplay still leaves a lot to be desired. And there are some untextured things in here still. But yes, this doesn't use any LODs either, so you can clearly do things like this. I mean, this runs a little poorly currently, actually, on this machine. But yeah, I just never, because I basically just never generated any LODs. Using LODs is not really a problem, right? Like, that's just switching out the model for another one in a somewhat sensible manner. Yeah, I mean, here we have some untextured things. And this doesn't have collisions either. I can just drive straight through it. But yeah, using LODs is not really a problem. The problem is generating them and making it in a way where you're just not spending all your time like doing that manually. So yeah, you can do stuff like this without LODs too. I mean, this also has terrain LODs because they're essentially auto-generated for you from the editor, but these meshes are not loaded here either. So that's kind of something that you just need to profile and see, do you actually need LODs? How am I building the levels? Well, this one level is built in a slightly different way than I'm doing it in the current game. I actually find that level here. Probably takes a little while to open. It's quite large. But for Project Slide, for this older game, I was just using a bunch of like cliff meshes and then just rotating them so that they look sort of like they are unique. I think I have like 20 or 15 different cliffs and rocks and things like that here and then I just basically rotate them how I want to, and hopefully that sort of makes it look like it is sort of a unique environment in that sense. Yeah, we're rendering light probes here, and I can't actually press Alt F7 because this thing is still loading. Alright, now I can, but now it's almost done. Yeah, so these are all just individual meshes. You can just move them around, let the light probe rendering finish first. There we go. You can see this is not actually super quick. This takes a little while to render. But yeah, you just have like pieces of rock that you can move around individually like this. And then you have the ground, which you can model just how you like this, and paint how you like as well. So that's that. In Project Slide, no, sorry, in Traction Point, the newer game, which doesn't look this nice yet, but hopefully soon will. I do have a slightly different approach to things. If we go to, yeah, means is the code name for that game. So if we open the refinery blockout level for this, this is actually using another system that I've made some videos about somewhat recently, that I call Blender Sync. I basically have a plugin in Blender that you can start like this, and then you can select a piece of the level, like this cliff here, for example, and you can just edit that in Blender, and it brings it over into Blender along with a piece of the environment. Right, so now we can just, you know, let's not do that. Now we can just take this and start modifying it however we want, like so. And now if you want to, probably want to first of all get rid of that. That's just a single face. Let's extrude some more to make my point clear here. And then Smart UV project, and you can just update and keep editing, for example, if you want to. And oh yeah, the export is a little slow on this machine for some reason. But yeah, now we have it in the game. Boom, and it has like has collisions and everything. Put a crate there, and then you just let it collide with it, for example. That sort of stuff. So I intend to do a lot more of like actual unique modeling in this game. Make a procedural generated GTA. Yes, I'll get I'll get right on that. And yeah, I remember talking about stunts previously. Live link with Blender. Yes. It was not super difficult. No, I'll put a link to my video on that, where I actually go into quite a few details on how that was built. If I can find it, yes, here we go. So Blender Sync, this video. Oh, let's just take that away. There's the link to the video. It's not super tricky. You need to have like a little bit of support in your engine for this sort of thing, and then you basically need some way to communicate with Blender. And there are, of course, many ways of doing that. But I went with a server system, so you can see here that you have like server running here in Blender. So you can have essentially like multiple, and we can cancel this edit and just go back to a normal Blender scene. You can have many Blender instances running on your machine, but one of them should have this server running if you intend to use the system. And then when you press, you know, take one of these things here and you press edit in Blender. That's probably a quick mesh, yeah, edit in Blender. Then that is the instance that gets this this data sent to it. And then I have a system where it actually sort of brings in a little bit of the environment if you want. So that's this white sphere here. Like if we put in I don't know, what should we put in? Like a truck without wheels currently. Still, we can cancel this edit and then bring in this new one. You can see that the truck is now there, and it's sort of, it splits everything in the surroundings into one object, and then the thing you actually want to modify into another object. And that makes it easier to model to scale. So that's pretty handy. But yes, that is how I intend to build this game. But let's reload this level, get rid of all the crap. Yes, it's with sockets. I use just the normal network connection that I use for multiplayer and for, well, almost all the other tools communication as well. And that means that I have a tiny CDLL, which this plugin loads. And yeah, all of that stuff is covered there in the video that I sent. And yeah, you're quite welcome for the explanation. Cool. All right, people. I think it's time for me to end this stream, even though this is and has been a very nice chat. But I need to go make sure my kids have something to eat. But if you find this stuff interesting, be sure to subscribe. I have been streaming quite often recently. I probably will continue to do that. I hope this time works out for people, but I understand it's not the most sort of prime timey time of day to stream. This is like, or I started streaming around noon here in Finland, and a lot of the Western world is sort of behind that, so that would make it kind of early in the day for many people. But this is sort of how I have been spending some of my work days recently. So I hope that works out for someone, and of course these things will be available as VODs. But thank you to everyone who hanged around. Hopefully I'll see you in upcoming streams and videos. And have a good one.